I've been on the internet for a long time now. At this point, I think it's adding up to almost 7 years, and in that time, I've met a lot of people online. Back then, though, this was less out of choice and more of necessity, because before the days of people studying the YouTube algorithm and optimizing their videos for maximum potential, the best way to get big on YouTube was through shoutouts. And to get shoutouts, you usually had to make connections with other people and collaborate. That was the advice given by so many others, and it was called networking, which is actually a real thing in the business industry. I can remember countless people who I was in group chats with, and they were just riding off the coattails of others. Some were very talented, others not so much, and the fate of those people today is mixed. Some of them just fall off the face of the earth and you never hear from them again, and some, usually with incredible potential, set their careers alight in a blaze of depravity. Such is the case of SillyRally. Despite the cartoon critic staying at a measly 2,000 subscribers, he had insane potential and was friends with some big creators due to how active he was with networking. Predictably, his career would fall due to his lack of controlling his inhibitions, but the way in which he did it was eerie. Here is a man who didn't let the mask slip for months on end, and when it finally did, his career was unrecoverable. So, let's explore that story. This is the tale of SillyRally. You wouldn't think that such a small footnote in the cartoon community and a YouTuber with 2,000 subscribers would have such an in-depth and well-documented history, but SillyRally is an exception, and he's been on the internet a lot longer than you think. Even though his earliest public videos from 2018, he's actually been making videos since 2011, when he was just 10 years old. According to him, he thought of his online name after spotting a Rally gas station whilst on a drive with his parents in his home state of Florida. He said to himself that the name sounded silly, and thus got SillyRally.
Hi guys, SillyRally 321 here, and I got an orange bird from Toys R Us. It is really awesome. It does have sound. I'm going to show you that in a minute. First of all, he has a really tall beak. It's really awesome. It's really hard to find this plush. The eyebrows, it looks really good, really awesome. The eyes are really different from the other ones.
These first videos on the channel SillyRally 321 from 2011 to 2013 are about as amateurish and cringy as you can imagine from a 10-year-old, yet these kinds of videos are incredibly rare in an age of lost archives. Even then, it takes a long time before SillyRally actually starts talking in his videos, because most of them are made with him playing Roblox, where the video narration is from him typing in game. This is where you'll find such classics as me playing Nazi zombies, retard dance, and what the heck? But it's clear that he knew what being a YouTuber was all about back then, and when you get into his videos where he's speaking, usually whilst playing with Angry Birds plushies and toys, it's actually really interesting and kinda nostalgic.
This is SillyRally 321, and this is me. Well, I'm not showing you my face though. You know I'm young and all that. Yeah, I'm a little kid. Yeah, you think that I'm a good teen, but I'm not. I'm just gonna give you some news. I'm gonna make some videos every Thursday. Wow, how really exciting.
Yes, this is far from high quality content, but we only remember our childhood through distant and sometimes distorted memories, and I can remember just playing with my action figures and narrating stories as if I was doing them on YouTube, except I was never allowed to upload. To see a video version of a more carefree life is pretty cool to witness, and to see a kid as young as this making videos and having a clear passion to create is intriguing and foreshadows what kind of creativity we would later see. In mid-2013, the SillyRally 321 channel would stop uploading. No real reason has been given on why this happened, and even SillyRally on his 1,000 subscriber special wants to deny this channel has ever existed, but at a guess, he probably just forgot the password. Thanks to that though, he would make a new channel, shorten the name to just SillyRally, and start uploading videos on there. Now that SillyRally had upgraded from using his phone camera to a PC, he started getting more involved in online communities and making online friends. Now, he already knew how to make online friends before on Roblox, but this would start to be more interesting when he started making Minecraft videos. Though none of his videos from back then are still available today, there are still videos where he appears on other people's channels.
Hey guys, it's SillyRally
and me, Bulk Moon. Yeah.
Hello, bro. Hello, Bulk Moon. This is my friend Bulk Moon, my BFF. Best friend forever, not GFF. What the freak? I don't know.
Okay.
Anyways,
hello guys, this is Epic here, and I'm with my
yeah, I do have it.
Yeah, and I'm with my friends, SillyRally, Zach is MC, and Fluffy the Killer M. And they're not gonna say hi.
Hi, hello.
Okay, I'm surprised. Okay.
But that's not all. There's also an old Twitter he used to have, where he tweeted about Minecraft. There's also a modded Minecraft map that he co-created, and even his own website, which links to a private video where he plays Five Nights at Freddy's. This is also the first time we see the SillyRally character, donning the red hoodie and green-black checkered neck scarf. Around the same time, SillyRally was also really starting to get into art and cartoons. Even from his old channels, you can find videos where he shows off his drawings of Angry Birds, and one of the 2 accounts he followed on his old Twitter was Nickelodeon. When it came to his Minecraft channel, he would often make speed paints, as per his website, and people would draw his character in return. However, as 2016 rolled around, things would change. With the advent of cringe culture rising up, Minecraft as a video game started to become ridiculed, not just for its childish fanbase, but also because of the numerous predators that circled the game. Playing Minecraft was suddenly uncool, and SillyRally was around 14 at this time, beginning to mature. His interest would change from games like Minecraft and FNAF to watching YouTubers such as Ralph the Movie Maker and Rebel Taxi, who he took inspiration from for his new content. In this post on Fandom Wiki, you can see him asking for some information on the infamous adult animated sitcom The Nut Shack, as he plans to make his own video. Nut Shack review? Hello, my name is SillyRally, and I'm a content creator. I would love to contact you because I need more information for The Nut Shack. I started editing. I wanted to do a review on The Nut Shack because not a lot of people don't know what it is, and there's less reviews on it. I mean, Rebel Taxi made a cameo. Ralph the Movie Maker did one currently, so I need you and the community to help. Thank you for reading. If you want to contact me back, here's my Twitter and YouTube. Twitter, @RealSillyRally, YouTube, SillyRally. This would be the foundation for SillyRally's main format of videos from then to now, as it was structured like a classic rant video. Over time, he would start to develop the style to reach higher and higher standards. By November 2018, his video based on Banjo-Kazooie and their inclusion into Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was received well, as was the sequel in April 2019.
In the year 2000, while Smash Bros. Melee was in development, Banjo and James Bond were considered to be a character in Melee. But there were some issues because they both were owned by Rare. Sooner or later, Microsoft bought off Rare in 2002 and moved on from there. Several years later, and this Superior League shows up. After all of these years, the Bear and Bird have returned to the big screen. The Glitch Leak, in my opinion, is the most credible source in Smash Bros. History, with its constant new evidence that pops up almost every day in its large support. This literally reminds me of the ESRB League from Smash Bros. 4, which no one believed at all. And guess what? It came to life. It actually was true.
Even if there wasn't huge recognition and the upload schedule was sporadic, the quality of the content was there. People liked the small details and creativity he would add to his videos. Starting from 2019, he would also begin interacting with members of the cartoon community on places such as Discord and Twitter. Remember the Roblox and Minecraft videos? This guy's been making online friends since a young age, he's pretty good at doing it, he's good at networking. He was talented, incredibly active online, and to most seemed like a normal person. In May 2020, he would make a video collaborating with Veridis Joe, a YouTuber who had around 50,000 subscribers at the time, and they just talked about Chick-fil-A. That's exactly what made SillyRally so impressive as a content creator. He was endearing, he was interesting, and he was a breath of fresh air.
Here's what I believe. I believe that Chick-fil-A is more of a 5-star restaurant than a fast food restaurant. But as SillyRally, it's a fast food restaurant. Correct! Yes it is. It is a fast food restaurant. However, it's not. Take this for example. Why is it that you see YouTube videos of people freaking out at these fast food restaurants like McDonald's, and you never see people bitching about Chick-fil-A? The employees are the nicest people you have ever met. That's not fast food like. Fast food is supposed to be like cold and dried out, and the food is supposed to be like in a acceptable condition.
As well as that, SillyRally was very friendly and rarely got himself involved in controversy despite having a commentary format in his videos. And instead of talking about online drama, he would talk about games and media. And his status inside the cartoon community would be elevated when an opportunity came to him a few months later. In July 2020, Japanese animation studio Engi would start airing their anime adaptation of the romantic comedy manga Uzaki-chan Wants to Hang Out, and it all created a stir on Twitter. This is because a lot of people aired out their concerns with the main character Hana Uzaki, particularly her massive tits paired with a small, childlike body. You know where I'm going with this. This whole discussion would create a huge war online between the Twitter users and the anime viewers, and in the middle of that, SillyRally would drop his own input about the situation.
What's the deal with people screaming about this shit? We got fucking the right opinion type profile pictures typing a thesis on why it looks like a kid, rather than writing a script for their 4-hour video about Nikocado Avocado. Man, I'm just mean, holy shit. For real, if you're just really wasting your energy on these weebs online, then you're just giving them more ammunition. You literally are asking other people to go on ahead and flame you. Like, man, don't give it to him. These are anime profile pictures, man. Stop.
Now, this video wasn't really anything special. It was up to the usual SillyRally standard, and it performed alright. But it's what that video led to that became interesting. One of the most vehement defenders of Uzaki-chan was Hirohei, an anime YouTuber with around 100,000 subscribers at the time, which is a miracle to me because his content is ass. Seriously, what was the appeal of a guy who looked like James Key's abandoned offspring and milked the fuck out of any anime topic he could get his hands on? This guy was like Keemstar for anime news, except without anything that made Keemstar entertaining, or racist, and he seemed to be just as sensitive and reactionary as the Twitter post he criticized in his videos. In September 2020, SillyRally would make a video talking about Hirohei, criticizing his ego, content, and sensitivity. Now, I was actually expecting to look back on this video and hear some really weak points that I misremembered as being solid back in the day, but that wasn't the case. SillyRally generally has some great and valid arguments against Hirohei, and it all holds up well as a critique.
Looky here, we have a huge problem in our hands. So this goober thought it would be an amazing idea to actually go out of his way and attack a 100 subscriber YouTuber, Mera, a small channel that makes animatics and slideshows of My Hero Academia, posted a video talking about Hirohei's content in regard to the Uzaki Twitter drama videos. Despite that the script needed more time to be worked on and that it needed more context, most of her points are almost like mine. Although the problem here is that Mr. Hero jumps to conclusions like,
now that's totally fine. She doesn't have to like my content. The thing is though, she takes this so much further, accusing me of being a map and basically accusing any fan of Uzaki of also being such.
The guy jumps to conclusions saying that they called him a pedo when that's not even their argument. Nowhere in the video she said that he was a pedophile. I actually went out of my way to make an Amino account to discuss with this person, and check this out. They were actually talking about this video he made called Sailor Moon Redraw Challenge is upsetting people all over Twitter. In this video he defends a not safe for work art of Sailor Moon and says this.
A lot of anime doesn't even tell you the character's age. If you watch anime, and I know I'm speaking to the choir here, I'm just talking in generalizations here, excuse me, to make this point. If you watch anime, you know that for the most part, you don't know a character's age. In most anime, they don't go out of their way to be like, yes, by the way, this character is X years old. Some anime does. Very rarely. Most anime doesn't tell you a character's age. You would have to go out of the way to look it up or something. So I really feel like these weirdos who get all mad about the age are self-projecting because no one is thinking about that because it's not really relevant to most anime. The age doesn't really matter to most anime. It really doesn't. You don't even know about it, and it's not relevant to the anime for the most part.
Bro, it's not crazy to assume they are underage, considering the fact that they are in high school. It's in the background, for fuck's sakes. If you would have made the assumption that they were hiding context purposely, then you would have definitely noticed the footage she used in the background, and you would have got the idea that they were not talking about Uzaki-chan's age, which was not their argument at all.
The video would perform pretty well for SillyRally, getting around 5,000 views at the time, and past the mindless Hirohei fans who seemed to comment before watching any point from the video, it was received well in the comments, and Hirohei would learn his lesson by just doing the same thing. I wonder what he's up to now.
And a feminist group / feminist league thought that the VTuber was offensive and problematic because of her schoolgirl outfit, and they tried to get this event canceled for, again, it was like an event literally to promote public safety, something good, and they tried to cancel it because schoolgirl outfit.
While SillyRally would never have any of his other videos perform as well as the Hirohei one, this would make him generally respected as a content creator inside the smaller spheres of the cartoon community. Around this time, he was interacting with the likes of Turkey Tom, LS Mark, Just Stop, and so many others. And from that video, he gained a small but loyal audience, and the notoriety of it would earn him some valuable collaborations. As well as that, he would get to 1,000 subscribers a few days later, and finally gave us all the long-awaited face reveal. On January the 1st, 2021, SillyRally would become part of the Down Bad Boys, a group / podcast inside the cartoon community. This group consisted of SillyRally himself, as well as Veridis Joe, Smeef, Large Black Male, DJ Something, and Kiwingly, and they would record 14 episodes, as well as a collection of gaming videos.
This is the first one that wasn't like 100% one-sided. What does this even mean? What is it for now?
Brain don't work no more, huh?
It don't.
This shit gonna be fucked up. This is gonna be fucked. This gonna be a story.
Bro, I really got you on that one, bro.
I got Smeef on this one.
We the last one? Yes, sir.
Man, you gonna like
this one. I hope it works. I hope it works. If it doesn't, I'm fucked.
This one's kind of mean, but I had to do it to him. I have to get that W. I have to get that W.
In August 2021, the YouTuber Parallax will make a video on Here or Hey, in which he featured a part of SillyRally's video. This would earn the video around 60,000 views. You may wonder how he already skipped a year from the face reveal, but you gotta remember, inconsistent schedule, not getting into controversy. All that really happened during this time involving SillyRally is the Down Bad Boys and him consistently improving his content. By October 2021, he would reach 2,000 subscribers after making his Halloween video, and Parallax had even reached out to him concerning the possibility of them working together. It felt like SillyRally was the next one up, and his next big break was on the horizon. However, what we got was the complete opposite.
So that means that your local content creator has to behave in their own videos and behind the scenes. And if they make one mistake,
crunchy boy,
then boom, their career is over. There's no way they can recover. They have been officially canceled. All the creators' fans no longer show respect to them and see them as the amalgamation of evil itself. What sucks about this is how it could happen to anyone who is getting themselves out there in the internet, including me.
On the 21st of December 2021, an individual by the name of Moneybag Joe would start posting allegations that SillyRally, or Chris as he's known in real life, had been grooming a 14-year-old whilst he was 18. The post in question contains screenshots of their conversations on Discord from the 27th of January 2020. I am, just charging. Okay, well I'm gonna go in the shower, I'll text you when I'm done. Alright babe. Heart. Heart. Whoa. Heart. Due to Moneybag tagging a lot of SillyRally's friends, the allegation gained some attention, although most of it was negative, with a lot of people attacking the original poster due to a lack of evidence. On one hand, this kinda makes sense, and you shouldn't make allegations when you don't even have proof of the supposed girl being 14. On the other hand, these people went way too hard on this post. Following this, SillyRally would make a public and unusually open response to this via a twitlonger on the 23rd of December. This twitlonger tells how SillyRally and Julie had met in high school when he was 17 and she was 14. They would start talking to each other and play games together, and it went from a platonic relationship to a romantic interest. At the time, Julie's mother worked at the school and was supposedly fine with them both hanging out at various places, such as the mall, the movies, and SillyRally's house. According to this twitlonger, the two of them hung out from December 2019 to March 2020, and he had turned 18 the month before. SillyRally goes on to clarify how nothing sexual happened at any of those places, and talks about how the girl herself was being forward in her advances. Some of these instances were fine, such as when they cuddled, but others made SillyRally uncomfortable, particularly when she grabbed his butt and prompted whilst at the movies, or when they were at the park and she tried to jump on top of him. SillyRally states that he expressed his discomfort clearly and immediately, vocally telling her not to do it or pushing her away. SillyRally goes on to say that during February 2020, the two of them sent sexual messages to each other on Snapchat. According to him, there were no nudes or NSFW phone conversations involved, it just happened over text for a few days before SillyRally realised how weird it was. Although the girl was fine with it, SillyRally realised it wasn't, and would tell her he did not want to continue talking to her in any way they'd been doing before. She didn't want it to end and did not want to listen to him, so he blocked her on everything. Soon after, she would call him, along with her friend and her sister on the line, lashing out at him and only having an issue with the age gap after the relationship was over. This was the last time they would interact until recently, when he got a comment on his Instagram and TikTok saying that he'd hung out with a 13-year-old. SillyRally finishes off by saying that he was not a groomer and did not get into an official relationship with Julie, but expressed regret for his weirdo behaviour and took responsibility. He took issue with the fact that the original accusation had tagged a bunch of his friends and mutuals, and ended it off wanting to move on, as he believed he had matured and didn't intend on addressing this forward. Most people responded to this statement when it came out with an outpouring of support towards SillyRally, which is weird because this guy literally just admitting to sexting a 14-year-old when he was 18 in his own twitlonger. To give some sense to this is quite a manipulative twitlonger. The writing here makes him out as an individual who recognizes mistakes, and it seemed as if he'd been a victim of sexual harassment in other instances. He had also given way more information than he needed to in response to one screenshot, which greatly improved his credibility. People weren't totally up to forgive him, but he was very open, and the idea that he had groomed or preyed on this girl was pretty weak so far, especially considering the lack of evidence from the accusers and the fact that her parents were supposedly aware of everything. Well, as it turns out, things would not be so black and white. On December 24th, the girl, known as Julie, would make her own statement. She begins by saying that they had actually started talking when he was 17 and she was 13, not 14 as SillyRally had said. After they had become close friends, she was taken aback when she felt a deeper emotional connection to him, and after she told him about her feelings, he agreed that there was more to their relationship than just being family friends. Soon after, she turned 14, he turned 18, and they began hanging out. Julie says that SillyRally didn't want to enter an official relationship with her until she was 16, which is the age of consent in Florida, where they both live. And despite that, he would supposedly make sexual advances towards her. One of these instances includes a video call where he gestured to his groin and seemingly had an erection. Whilst he was clothed, the idea of it almost scared Julie because she had never been exposed to anything like that before. In another instance, Julie says that SillyRally had invited her over to watch movies when in reality he wanted to cuddle. He would take her to the backyard and they would lay on a very small chair together, pressed up against each other. SillyRally would also say multiple things to Julie. Despite apparently not being in a relationship, he would say "goodnight princess" to her on a day-to-day basis. At a later date, he told her he wanted to feel the walls of your pussy. Actions like this made Julie incredibly nervous, anxious, and conflicted. On one hand, she thought it was normal and cute that an older man had been calling her his princess, but on another hand, it felt like she wanted to throw up. It's also worth noting that whilst their parents knew they were both friends, they had no idea of the numerous sexual advances, and Julie was reluctant to tell them because she felt like he would get violent, or the adults would listen to his lies over her story. Julie says it took 8 months for her to feel like she had gotten over him, and after that she began to look back on her past in a new light. She recollects seeing movies and narratives of women who got groomed, and started to see a great similarity between them and her, to the point where remembering how he held her, or how he spoke to her on those nights, gave her shivers. Julie finishes off her statement by talking about how he had gaslit her during the call, and talks about her worry from the positive reception that SillyRally's first Twitlonger had gotten. She restates that she had been groomed, these instances were genuinely scarring, and in no way were any of them legal or okay. Julie's story seemed to contradict everything that Chris had said, saying that he was the one that was a lot more forward being sexual towards her, as well as saying that Chris had lied about meeting her only when she was 14. However, still, no evidence. This was still a he said she said situation. On January the 25th, an account by the name of SillyRally Groom / Justice for Julie would be created, and began compiling everything against him. A lot of the crucial evidence came from a Google Drive folder posted publicly, and it was groundbreaking. SillyRally's original Twitlonger openly described moments of sexual harassment and his discomfort by saying this. For example, when we went to the movies in January to see Underwater, after the movie they grabbed my butt unprompted, and I immediately told them vocally to not do it, as it did make me uncomfortable and upset, and they continued to do it multiple times after the fact. I clearly expressed discomfort in them doing so, but they continued to be forward. Well, Julie had proof of them meeting up together several times, and him getting touchy with her. One picture from the mall shows her leg across his arms whilst he's holding his phone, accompanied with a short video where he is seen holding her leg. Another short video shows them inside the cinema. Another video inside SillyRally's home shows him sitting on his bed. Julie puts her hand on Chris's butt, as detailed in the Twitlonger, but instead of immediately telling them vocally not to do it, Chris responds by slapping her thigh. There's a lot more evidence here of SillyRally and Julie's interactions. One is a picture of him in his bed, another shows him inside a car along with a short video, and 2 other videos show him laying down on a chair, one of them inside on his gaming chair, whilst another outside on a lounge chair at night. Julie had also taken the instinct to record snippets of her Snapchat calls with Chris, and the resulting footage is interesting to say the least.
Your face makes me want to just stay. God damn it. Stop it. Stop it. Get some help. I have to leave. Fuck you for looking so beautiful. Stop it. Stop it.
Listen. These guns. Oh, wait. These guns aren't just for show. These are for 2 things. 1, doing homework. And 2, I can't say it. But you have an idea what it is.
Yeah, in case you're wondering what the second thing is, according to Julie, it was masturbating.
Good. All right. Let's move on. Let's move on. Let's move on. Go ahead. Go ahead. What are you gonna do with that? What are you gonna do with that hand? You're gonna leave.
Alongside this, there were more screenshots of them talking on call, as well as more Snapchat messages. One of them is the screenshot where SillyRally is supposedly showing her his erection through his clothes. Julie had also provided several more screenshots of her Instagram DMs with him, and sought to prove the legitimacy of her claims. She screen recorded her Discord DMs and went to SillyRally's profile, and provided proof of her age by posting her learner's license. It's also worth noting that these Discord and Instagram DMs are notably one-sided, because SillyRally deleted his side of them. Another of Julie's pictures, which shows her holding a red teddy bear, is one that Chris had given her as a Valentine's gift. And earlier, when she was 13, Julie says she sent him a selfie with her tongue out. SillyRally replied by saying that she was doing the Ahigo face. Julie had no idea what that was and looked it up, then learned it was related to porn. In SillyRally's Twit Longer, he also talks about the last call he ever had with Julie. He paints it out as him being unjustly attacked by Julie, as her friend and her sister lashed out at him. What he didn't mention is how he lashed back, and how he responded with some very interesting answers.
Hello?
You got a problem?
I got a problem?
Yes. You fucking with the wrong person. I know you fucking with the wrong person. I don't play.
I don't know who you are.
You probably don't, but I know who you are. Like I said again, do you have a problem?
You talk a lot of shit for a named Tiffany.
Are you white?
Are you white?
No. My parents are both very black, and they both named me Tiffany. Do you have a motherfucking problem?
Damn.
Talk about how he led me on.
Why did you lead her on? I just want to know like two things. This is why I called you.
Who's lead her on? Who's her? Who the fuck are you talking
Julie, I told you on the voicemail.
Are you fucking goddamn serious?
I'm being
Why the fuck are y'all
so
bringing me up something
goddamn
that don't want to fucking bring up at the beginning?
Cause she's fucking depressed.
Get the fuck out of my life. Y'all is kids.
Okay, so why? If it was a kid, I'm about as old as you are. If it was a kid,
shut the fuck up. Oh my god.
If it was a kid, why were you fucking with her in the first place?
Damn, you sound like a fucking toddler.
If it was a kid, why were you fucking with her in the first place? That's the that's the point. You were trying to. You were trying to. Well, you're gonna have to, because now you don't got Julie.
Fuck out of here. You fucking boring ass fucking.
You get a life and get someone your age and don't lead them on.
I do have a life. I'm actually successful.
Wow. So why are you fucking with a 14-year-old?
I live a nice life, nice house, nice family.
Just
what you
say
got?
like, oh, so all you do is lead people on.
Well, for a person that has all that stuff, you sure do like to lead people on.
You got a fucking plug.
I do have multiple plugs. The plug is the person you was trying to fuck with.
Alright?
Huh?
Don't fucking bother my fucking life, alright?
Why were you... Okay, but why... No, listen to me for 1 second. Why were you talking to a 14-year-old to begin with if we're toddlers?
Because I knew that person way long.
How long?
How long? I don't know. Probably 2, 3, 4 years, probably.
You care about her enough to lead her on.
You care about her enough to lead her on?
Do I care?
Even if you didn't do it on purpose, you still did it, and you're still affecting someone. And she's really crying over this. I've been to her house.
Okay. Now answer me this.
I'm answering.
Now answer me this.
Okay.
Why the fuck does it matter?
Cause she's crying.
Why the fuck does it matter?
A 14-year-old is crying about this. You don't care about it? Like you don't.
Okay, do I give a fuck?
You don't have to give a fuck.
Do I give a fuck?
You don't have to give. I'm just letting you know I got a problem with it.
Why the fuck do they care about me in the first place?
Because she thought you were a good person.
Smart about it. They should be fucking thinking for their own selves. Not what others fucking.
Okay, but since they're 14-year-olds can't think. How old are you?
I'm fucking 18.
He literally told me that he loved me. Tell him that.
You told her you loved her, and she believed it. Well, I saw the messages, so who texted that?
You saw the message, bro. Again, when it comes to literally your fucking old source or your plug, it's fucking lies.
The plug is Julie.
I fucking knew it. I fucking knew it. Well, tell fucking Julie.
She's right here if you want to tell her yourself. But why is she?
You're starting beef for fucking nothing.
I'm not even trying to start beef, but if you fuck with my friends, you gotta get this.
Why would you call my phone?
Because I have a problem with you.
There's no problem. I'm literally.
Well, the problem right now. This is the problem. You got my friend over here crying. So maybe you just don't feel bad, don't you? You really just don't feel bad.
I don't, because why are you trying to start beef?
Maybe you should have told her you love her and lead her on.
Yeah. Maybe you shouldn't have told her that you loved her, because she believed it since she's 14.
Why would I need to tell her that?
You already did. That's the problem. You don't love her, but you told her.
No,
but I saw it. I saw it. The message is saying, I love you, Julie. Like, that's not necessary if you don't love someone.
I don't.
Well, maybe you should have said that. Okay, I have another question. I also saw messages where you was,
No.
you was talking a little nasty to a 13-year-old.
You were literally being delusional. And
Literally being delusional. You sound like a little. I don't even know why you're talking to me.
Bro, shut the fuck up. You
Be like, why did you dirty?
Just
be like, why did you dirty talk her then?
You know what? You a grown ass man. Go live your life.
Exactly.
Leave
Leave
underage people out of it. You don't even know what I look like, and I bet you I look good.
Trying to fucking start beef over some old ass
I'll
shit.
keep it going too. I'll keep it going. I got so much to say. I don't even care if she tell me the sky's orange. I'm gonna believe the sky is gonna be orange. I hope you don't ever talk to a 13-year-old girl again.
Why would I want to talk
Motherfucker.
to a 13-year-old girl?
Cause you did. You did.
Cause I did, cause I fucking knew this person way before you did.
But you were talking to her like you was trying to be in a relationship with her, but you weren't. You didn't mean anything. When you tell, when you,
that was literally like.
It was never any relationship.
It doesn't have to be a relationship. You talking to her like you trying to get one, but then you go switch up with her and be like, nah.
Who said I was in a relationship?
No one. You were just trying to get with her in it. You were talking to her like you wanted it.
Be like, so you want to lead people on?
Because I'm saying I love you, does that fucking mean I'm asking for a relationship?
Basically, if you tell
my brother I love
like, is she your brother or your sister or your family member whatsoever? If someone tells me, if someone tells me that they love me and they're the opposite sex, what the fuck does that even mean?
You literally told her you were gonna ask her out when she was 16.
You literally told her you were gonna ask her out. After this, let me get this one more point out there, and I hope this makes you think about what the hell you did. You told her you were gonna date her when she turned 16.
No, I wasn't.
But you a lie. You a lie. You lying. Cause
I am?
Yes. She told me that you said you would get with her when she turned 16.
You know what? Alright. I'm just gonna say yes to everything you say just to literally fuck off, alright?
Okay. Bro, just stop being a fucking bitch. I hope you get your life straight, man. Cause you treating No, cause I'm really about to get a little pissed off. I'm about to get she about to talk to you. Don't be a dick with her, cause I will get your fucking address and I will fuck you
How
up.
the fuck am I being a dick?
You're a fucking asshole for leading me on.
Attention.
You're a fucking asshole.
Do you hear her crying over this? You really think I get pissed off if she wasn't crying?
Okay.
Yes, we
I hope you get a life.
Okay.
You're saying you said I love you and you're not even acting like you give a shit. Like, you need to learn how to treat a woman because you let her on. You said I love you. You said you cared. You don't act like you fucking asshole.
You got a problem and I don't got a problem. Now it shows it. Julie, you need to grow the fuck up, alright?
You grow the fuck up.
You too, you fucking black ass chick.
Oh, hell no. Let me get it.
Okay, Julie, see, he's a fucking asshole.
On January the 26th, media reviewer and YouTuber Zach Quinn will make a thread discussing and summarizing everything inside the Google Drive folder, and from there, the story became a lot more public. The same day, Chris would get back into contact with Julie on Instagram. Hello Julie, are you down to talk? Yes. Alright, so I want to get straight with you about exactly what the problem is. We can talk about whatever you want to bring up. Is that okay? You already know what the problem is. Well, I'd like to know how you personally feel, so I can understand your feelings. There's a lot of claims that are going around, and I just want to touch base. You know what you did was wrong. These aren't just claims, you disregarded my feelings for a long time. I don't understand why you're acting as if you don't know what's going on. Okay, I will go off of the claims of you calling me a groomer and that I led you on in our relationship. In our relationship, you are completely correct, I did lead you on. I did have a connection with you, and I was wrong to say I didn't. However, the reason why you got led on in the first place was because I realized I was growing up and realized I was too old for you. So to claim that I maliciously groomed you is not what happened, because before it could even be considered grooming in any facet, I decided to cut off the relationship for the benefit of yourself and me, but I recognized that we should have had a proper conversation about all of this back then. The definition of grooming, raining, preparing a or conditioning someone, usually over a long period of time. Also used to refer to a pedophile's process of building trust with a child, wearing down the child's boundaries. First of all, you told me to wait until I was 16 years old, the age of consent in the state of Florida, which we both have resided in. Second, you just admitted in the text you just wrote that you've established an emotional connection with me and have led me on. In doing so, you have affected my mental health. You committed a sexual act with me as well, which you admitted to in your twitlonger. Even if nudes were involved, it is still a sexual act nonetheless, and is a part of grooming. A 13-year-old is a literal child. I was not aware of grooming at the time. You were 17 going on 18. You were more mentally developed than that of a 13/14-year-old, a child in middle school. You had to have known. In addition, the call we had with my friend Tiffany, you said, if Julie's 14, she needs to learn how to grow the fuck up, shifting the blame onto me. You were gaslighting me, making me think I was in the wrong. If you're still in denial that you groomed me, it still doesn't change the fact that what you did was disgusting and illegal. The law protects minors against adults for a reason. If you actually felt that what you did was wrong and cared, you would have already apologized. If you're only reaching out about the allegations because your ties to the communities have been put in jeopardy due to them, then you are reaching out for the wrong reasons. When I decided to reach out, I wanted to get a better understanding of the situation. You bringing this up publicly made me realize that a conversation needs to be had that I ignored for a while. I honestly thought you'd moved on. Regarding the grooming claim, I got into a relationship with you because you were you, not because you were a minor. I didn't actively seek you out because you were a minor, and the intent from the start wasn't to turn this into a sexual thing. I recognize what I did was fucked up, and I understand your feelings. We should have had a proper talk, instead of me cutting you off the way I did. I recognize and understand that. However, I never intentionally wanted to cause you harm, and for that, I'm sorry. On January the 27th, SillyRally would put out another statement via twitlonger, responding to everything. And it was a load of shit. The first thing that's addressed here is some claims from the victim's side that the community ignored the first twitlonger and did not hold him accountable for admitting to sexting a 14-year-old. SillyRally opens up by denying this, but that's clearly not the case because the twitlonger is still publicly available. You can scroll on the replies, you can see for yourself. It was irresponsibly handled. Then, SillyRally continued to say that he wasn't a groomer because he established a connection with a child when he was a minor. Except that's just really dumb logic. After that, he says he isn't a groomer because he was interested in the girl because of who they were and not how old they were. Which is also weird because really, what personality does a 13-year-old have? He then says that he's learned from the situation when he literally hasn't because when the accusations first came up, he gave a false testimony of sexual harassment. He also definitely lied about the age, which he apparently did to not give the implication that he was 13-18, even though that's just a very simple clarification you can make. SillyRally then admits that the specifics of the sexting and romantic stuff listed were all true. So the teddy bear, holding a leg, cuddling her on a lounge chair, saying you want to feel the walls of a pussy, that's all true. Speaking of bullshit, SillyRally then addresses the phone conversation. Whilst he does admit that the call was unprofessional, showcasing his frustration and supposed fear, which is a reach because he really doesn't sound afraid at all on that call.
Don't be a dick with it, because I will get your fucking address and I will fuck you up.
How the fuck am I being a dick?
But importantly, he also refutes the claims that he called her the N-word and a black bitch, when in fact he said black ass chick and ugly ass bitch. But didn't he call her the N-word hard R? Let's roll that clip back.
You fucking boring ass fucking nigga.
He also says that the conversation got heated because she also used the F slur. Later on, he addresses the claim of the erection on video call, which in my opinion is probably the only shaky part of the evidence because it's hard to tell. He also notes that the parents knew they were together, when that's not the claim. The claim was whether they knew the sexual stuff was happening. SillyRally also denies making any physical advances towards her, even though there was literal video evidence of him holding her leg at the mall or slapping her thigh. The last part of this is probably the most pathetic, as SillyRally tries to conclude by saying he was never a predator. He also goes on to say this, and I had to read this out directly because, holy fuck, this is just insane. Because of this situation, I've been doxxed and harassed, specifically referring to the people who called my phone and called me a straight up pedophile and groomer. Memes were made about the situation, tagged with hashtag pedo, hashtag groomer, memes in question. Oh, cry me a river, you sensitive fucking pussy. To list your doxing alongside people making fun of you with memes is such a desperate move, it's hilarious. And it all ends off with SillyRally saying he uses the N-word because he lived his life in the streets of Tampa, next to the Angry Birds plushies he was holding. He finally apologizes for causing the victim harm, but gives us one last denial of the grooming allegation. This twitlonger was obviously a car crash, and the effects essentially sealed SillyRally's fate forever. In the wake of the Google Drive, some people would harass the members of Down Bad Boys into responding, which they eventually did. The podcast as a whole would also publicly announce their collective exclusion of SillyRally from the group, scrapping any pre-recorded project they had involving him, and stated they would be on hiatus until they decided what to do with the podcast. Even Parallax, who had recently worked with SillyRally, tweeted about the situation and expressed his devastation, as well as his sympathies towards the victim. However, due to the fact that he had cited SillyRally in his video, Parallax's content against Hirohei continues to be hounded by fans who believe he used the talking points of a pedophile. Even Hirohei himself would hold out to claim his dues in the end. And that's the only place you'll hear the name of SillyRally again. No activity would ever come from the man from then to now. In the beginning of this video, I talked about my experience as a small commentator and the constant advice given to me to network, meet other small creators, make friends in the so-called industry, and build up your brand that way. This advice didn't just apply to commentary, people say this all the time when you want to be a YouTuber, and a few years back when subs mattered and shouting out smaller creators actually worked, this would have been good advice. But times have changed, and so have people. On YouTube today, and especially inside communities, the system of networking is inherently tribalistic and very closed off. By affiliating yourself exclusively with a group of creators, you have tied your name to them. If one of them fucks up and falls in the mud, you get a bit of a splash in your shoes as well, even if you were never involved. And the bigger the fuck up, or for this analogy, the bigger the puddle, the more mud there is. All you can do to save yourself is to push them away. The internet has got a lot more distrustful, for better or for worse. There's a big reason why SillyRally's former podcast, Down Bad Boys, actually split up this July, because no matter what, it's just too hard to clean that mud off your shoes. I've said this again and again, and I'll continue to say it, not everyone you know is what they say they are. Until next time, stay safe and stay toasty.